Hey there, I am doing today's episode in the great outdoors, aka my backyard, because it is such a beautiful day out and I feel like the experience of playing with Dave Smith's Evolver on my back porch will outweigh the cons of all of the animal sounds and audio issues and the dog down the road that keeps barking every time my voice goes over 30 decibels. So, without further ado, let's do this. Have you ever been in one of those situations at a show or a party where you run into other electronic musicians and they get all one-uppy and one guy will say, oh, well, Native Instruments sent me a free copy of Contact, and another guy will be like, oh yeah, well, I got this Ableton loop library that I made and it's included on Ableton's website. And when Dave Smith gets into those situations, he just says, oh, cool, I invented f***ing MIDI. In 2002, Dave Smith released his first synth ever, and it was the Evolver, and it is weird. It is this little box that has a few knobs and a bunch of buttons, and it has one analog oscillator and 3 digital oscillators and a sequencer, and it looks really confusing, but once you start using it, it's actually very intuitive, because when I first got mine, the first thing I was thinking is, I need a PC editor for this. I can't work with this little box. But after playing with it for an hour, it's really intuitive and quite genius. So first we'll do a run through of some presets I made without any effects on the end, and then we'll try and just make a patch from scratch and see how that works out. And I think that you'll probably want one by the end of this video. So I'm quickly realizing that maybe doing this outdoors wasn't the best idea because I need to see the LEDs and I can't, but I'm going to try and muscle through this anyway. So one thing that you should know right off the bat is that this also just works as a monophonic synthesizer. Right? I have a little MIDI controller out here. So as you can see, we have 4 oscillators, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have a filter, we have some delay, we have some weird effects like output hack, which is like sort of a decimator. We have distortion, and then we can actually set, there's 4 different sequencers, and we could actually set where those destinations go. So immediately you realize how powerful this is because you can sequence almost anything in the unit, not just the tones. So let's get going with that. This is a bit of a Mr. Oizo style sequence that I just sort of randomly made by twisting knobs. Let's try and make it a little bit more melodic. One thing to note is that, so the perimeters, so 1 octave is 24 on this. I'm going to switch the filter. Now I'm going to bring in another oscillator.
Now I'm going to set an LFO to change the fine pitch of the second oscillator. And I'm going to make the shape a stepper, like a random stepper instead of a triangle. The third oscillator enters. And the fourth. And we even have FM, exponential FM. This one I've actually used the sequencer to sequence the sequencer. Sequenception. And it's MIDI controllable as well. And so the way this is routed, it should take a really long time for you to hear the exact same thing loop. Maybe, I don't know, maybe an hour, 10 minutes, a year. Look, it's the Akai XR20. I think that the slogan for this drum machine should be, I need a drum machine, I don't care otherwise. Since the day I started this channel, I've wanted to do a DSI Evolver video, but I think you can see exactly why it's been so hard to do it. Would you stop chewing leaves? Stop chewing leaves. From the day I started this channel, I've wanted to do something on the DSI Evolver because there's just not a lot of stuff on YouTube that covers it adeptly. But I think if you've gotten this far in the video, you now understand why. It's an extremely hard synth to describe, to demonstrate, or to explain how fun it is to use. You just have to play with one. And if you have a friend with one, I recommend you borrow it. And I don't think you could buy them new anymore. Unfortunately, I think like a year and a half ago they stopped selling them. So you're gonna have to go on eBay and get one. But I got mine for around $300, and that's ridiculously cheap for what you're getting. It's an incredible value. It is a very weird and quirky synthesizer, and in 2002, had I gone to the Guitar Center synth sales floor and saw it, I probably would have played with it for 15 seconds and then moved on to the next thing and the next thing and ended up buying an Electribe drum machine. Fortunately, not everybody has as short of an attention span at Guitar Center as I do, because this thing actually took off and did quite well. Dare I say that in 15 or 20 years, this could have a TB303 effect where people will miss that quirkiness and that weirdness and that uniqueness of the synth, and they'll want to pay a lot more for it than the suggested retail value was when it came out. And for that reason, it could be a good investment. If you enjoyed this video, or if you like my dog, subscribe to my channel, or let me know in the comments if there's anything you'd like me to cover in the future. Later.